What is this? How could you?
It's not what it looks like.
Not what it looks like. You're in bed with her.
I found my fiancé in bed with his secretary. Not unusual, right? Except Jiun wasn't just any cheater. He was Korean mafia royalty. And when I walked out of his penthouse that night, I walked straight into the arms of his father. Seo Jun, retired kingpin, dangerous, devastatingly handsome, and about to make his son's betrayal the biggest mistake of his life. Wait, she's getting revenge by dating her ex-fiancé's father? And he's a retired mafia boss? Oh, this is about to get messy. Subscribe and smash that notification bell because you do not want to miss how this plays out. Trust me, it gets absolutely wild. I thought I'd found my forever in Jiun. He was everything I'd been told I couldn't have. Wealthy, ambitious, from a world so far removed from my South Side Chicago upbringing that it felt like a fairy tale. When he proposed after 2 years of dating, I actually believed I'd beaten the odds. A black woman from nothing, marrying into one of the most powerful Korean families in the city. Everyone warned me it wouldn't work. My friends said I was setting myself up for heartbreak. His family made it clear I was a curiosity, not a choice. But Jiun swore none of it mattered. He loved me. We'd build our own life. I should have known better. 3 weeks before our wedding, I came home early from a work trip and found him in our bed with his secretary, Hygiene, a woman his mother had been pushing him toward since we got engaged. The betrayal wasn't just personal. It was calculated. I was supposed to be at a conference in Seattle. He thought he was safe. But my flight got canceled, and I walked into our penthouse to find evidence of exactly how much of a fool I'd been. I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't make a scene. I just left. Drove aimlessly through the city until I ended up at the last place I should have gone, the Kong family estate on the outskirts of the city, where Jihoon's father, Seo Jun, lived in semi-retirement. I'd only met him twice. Once at a family dinner where he'd studied me with sharp, assessing eyes. Once at our engagement party where he'd told Jihoon, in Korean, he didn't think I understood. She's too good for you. Don't waste your time. I hadn't known if it was an insult or a warning. Now, sitting in my car outside his gate at midnight, mascara-streaked and heartbroken, I was about to find out. Because when the security camera swiveled toward me and the gate slowly opened, I realized something I should have understood from the beginning. In the Kong family, power didn't just pass from father to son. Sometimes it had to be taken back. The Seattle conference was supposed to run until Friday. I was supposed to give my presentation on Thursday afternoon, network at the reception that evening, and fly home Friday night with enough time to finalize our wedding seating chart over the weekend. Instead, my keynote got moved to Wednesday morning, and I caught a red-eye home Tuesday night, exhausted but excited to surprise Jihoon with an extra day together. 3 weeks until our wedding. 3 weeks until I officially became Mrs. Kong. I should have known something was wrong when I walked into our penthouse and found his shoes kicked off carelessly by the door. Jihoon never left his things scattered. Everything about him was precise, controlled, perfectly curated for his image. But I was tired, dragging my suitcase through the foyer, already imagining his surprised face when I woke him up. Then I saw the trail. A woman's blazer. Expensive. Not mine. Heels. Black stilettos with red soles. Definitely not mine. And leading toward our bedroom, a silk blouse I'd never seen before. My heart stopped. I knew what I'd find before I even pushed open the bedroom door. Some part of me had known for weeks, maybe months. The late nights at the office. The turned phone screens. The way his mother kept suggesting I was too American for their family, that Jihoon needed someone who understood their culture. But knowing and seeing are two different things. Jihoon was in our bed, the bed we'd picked out together, the 1,000 thread count sheets I'd insisted on splurging for, with Hygiene Park, his secretary. The woman his mother had hired 6 months ago despite my quiet objections. The woman who always seemed to be at every family dinner, every business function, hovering at Jihoon's elbow with perfect timing and practiced smiles. They were naked, tangled together, fast asleep like they'd done this 100 times before, which I realized with cold clarity they probably had. I didn't scream, didn't throw things, or collapse into hysterics like the wronged women in movies. I just stood there, my carry-on still in my hand, and felt something inside me go quiet and cold. Hygiene woke first. Her eyes met mine, and for a split second, I saw something flicker across her face. Not guilt.
Not shame.
Satisfaction. She'd wanted me to see this.
Yehoon.
Her voice was soft, deliberately gentle as she shook his shoulder. Jihoon, wake up. He groaned, rolling toward her, his hand sliding possessively across her waist. Too early, baby. Come back to bed. Baby. He'd never called me that. Said it was too Western, too casual for someone he respected.
Yehoon.
Hygiene's eyes never left mine. Your fiancé is home. I watched him freeze. Watched the realization crash over him in slow motion. He turned his head, saw me standing in the doorway, and his face went absolutely white. Julian. He sat up quickly, scrambling for the sheet to cover himself. Julian, wait, this isn't what it looks like. I finished, my voice eerily calm. That's what you're going with. Really? I can explain. You weren't supposed to be home until Friday. That's what came out of his mouth. Not an apology. Not remorse. Logistics. I almost laughed. So, this is my fault? For coming home early to my own apartment. That's not what I meant. He was getting out of bed now, pulling on his boxer briefs with shaking hands. Julian, please just let me. How long?
I asked. He stopped.
What? How long have you been sleeping with your secretary in our bed while I worked 60-hour weeks to make partner before the wedding? Each word came out precise, sharp. How long have you been making me look like a fool?
Yehones yaftaitend.
In that moment, I saw the truth in his face. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was who he was. Who he'd probably always been. Julian, you're being dramatic. His voice took on that condescending edge I'd learned to hate over the past year. Can we discuss this privately? Without an audience. I glanced at Hygiene, who was now sitting up with the sheet wrapped around her, looking far too comfortable in my bed. I think we're past privacy, don't you? I set down my carry-on very carefully. Tell me something, did your mother know? Is this why she's been so insistent that Hygiene attend every family function? His silence was answer enough. Of course. I nodded slowly. She hired her specifically for this. To push me out and slot in someone more appropriate. My mother has nothing to do with. Please. I cut him off. Your mother has orchestrated every aspect of your life since birth. You think I didn't notice her seating Hygiene next to you at every dinner? The way she'd suggest you two work late together? The not-so-subtle comments about how I never truly understand your world. Jihoon's face flushed. You're making this about my mother when you should be asking yourself why I'd look elsewhere in the first place. And there it was. The real truth underneath all the excuses. Enlighten me, I said coldly. Why would you cheat on your fiancé 3 weeks before your wedding? Because you're never here. His voice rose, defensive and entitled. You're always at work, always focused on your career, always putting your ambitions first. I was building my career, so I'd have something of my own. So I wouldn't be just Jihoon Kang's wife, with no identity beyond your last name.
See?
That right there. You think being my wife is some kind of prison? He gestured angrily. Hygiene understands the importance of family, of putting the relationship first. Hygiene is sleeping with her boss for a promotion. I looked directly at her. Make no mistake, he'll do this to you too. The minute someone more convenient comes along. Hygiene's expression hardened. Maybe if you'd been the right woman for him, he wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere. I felt something crack inside my chest. Not heartbreak, I'd deal with that later. Right now, it was just cold, crystalline rage. You're right, I said quietly. I wasn't the right woman for him. Because I actually have self-respect. I picked at my carry-on, turned toward the door. Julian, wait. Jihoon started. Don't. I didn't look back. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't show up at my office with flowers and apologies. We're done. You can't just leave. We have a wedding in 3 weeks. Deposits, contracts, 400 people. Then you explain to them why the bride won't be attending. I walked toward the front door. Blame it on my American sensibilities. I'm sure your mother will appreciate the irony. Julian, please. His voice cracked. I love you. I stopped at the door, my hand on the knob, and finally turned to look at him. He stood in the bedroom doorway, half-dressed, desperate, and I realized I felt nothing. Not love. Not even hate. Just profound relief that I'd found out now instead of after the wedding. No, you don't, I said. You love the idea of me. The successful black woman who made you look progressive and modern to your business partners. The diversity trophy you could show off at charity galas. His face confirmed the truth of it.
Goodbye, Jihoon.
I walked out, closing the door on 3 years of my life. I drove aimlessly for hours. Through downtown, past the harbor, along highways I'd never taken before. The sun came up, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that felt obscene given the circumstances. I should call Kesha. My best friend would already be on her way with wine and murder plans. I should go to my office, throw myself into work, pretend this hadn't happened. Instead, I found myself on the outskirts of the city, pulling up to a gate I'd only driven through twice before. The Kong estate. I sat in my car, staring at the security camera mounted on the stone pillar, wondering what the hell I was doing. This was Jihoon's family home. His father's estate. The last place I should be after what just happened. But something had drawn me here. Some instinct I didn't fully understand. Maybe because Seo Jun Kong was the only member of Jihoon's family who'd ever looked at me like I was a person, not a problem. I'd met him exactly twice. Once at a family dinner shortly after the engagement, where he'd sat at the head of the table, mostly silent, watching everyone with sharp, assessing eyes. When Jihoon's mother had made a pointed comment about how different I was from their usual social circle, Seo Jun had changed the subject so smoothly it took me a moment to realize he'd defended me. The second time was at our engagement party. Jihoon had been making rounds, introducing me to business associates, his hand possessive on my lower back. Seo Jun had pulled him aside. Speaking in rapid Korean, he clearly thought I couldn't understand. She's too good for you. Don't waste her time. Jihoon had laughed it off. You worry too much, father. And you don't worry enough. This woman has spine. Character. Don't mistake her kindness for weakness. I'd never mentioned that I'd understood every word. Kesha had taught me Korean in college. Her mother was from Busan, and we'd spent hours studying together. It had been useful in business, invaluable in understanding exactly what Jihoon's family said about me when they thought I couldn't comprehend. Now, sitting outside Seo Jun's gate at dawn, I wondered if he'd known I could understand. If he'd been sending me a warning I'd been too in love to heed. The security camera swiveled, focusing on my car. I should leave. Drive to Kesha's place, cry on her couch, start picking up the pieces of my life. Instead, I waited. A full minute passed. Then another. And then, slowly, the gate began to open. The Kong estate was different in daylight than it had been during my previous visits. The manicured garden stretched for acres, traditional Korean architecture blending seamlessly with modern security features. Water features. Stone pathways. Cherry trees that would be stunning in spring. It was beautiful. Peaceful. The complete opposite of the chaos my life had become in the past 12 hours. I drove slowly up the curved driveway, my heart hammering. What was I going to say? Hi, I just caught your son cheating. Thought I'd stop by. The main house was impressive without being ostentatious. All clean lines and natural materials, the kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. And standing on the front steps, waiting for me, was Seo Jun. I'd only seen him in formal settings before, expensive suits, perfect presentation, the bearing of a man who'd commanded respect through fear and intelligence for decades. This morning, he wore dark slacks and a simple white t-shirt, feet bare, silver-streaked black hair slightly mussed like he'd been awake for a while. He looked younger than his 58 years, lean and strong in a way that suggested he still trained regularly. But it was his expression that made me get out of the car.
No surprise. No judgment.
Just quiet understanding, Ms. Backman. His English was perfect, only slightly accented. You look like you could use some whiskey. I laughed, and it came out slightly hysterical. It's 6 in the morning. I didn't ask what time it was. He held the door open. Asked if you needed whiskey. I followed him inside. The interior matched the exterior. Minimalist elegance with traditional elements. Hardwood floors. Sliding doors. Art that was probably worth more than my car. But it felt lived in, comfortable. Not the showplace I'd expected. Seo Jun led me to a sitting room that overlooked the gardens, gestured to a leather sofa, and poured 2 glasses of amber liquid from a crystal decanter. He handed me one, settled into the chair across from me, and waited. I took a sip. The whiskey was smooth, expensive, and burned perfectly on the way down. Your son is sleeping with his secretary, I said finally. I know. The calm acknowledgement surprised me. You know? I've known for 3 months. Since shortly after she was hired. Seo Jun studied his glass. My former associate saw them at a hotel in Busan during what was supposed to be a business trip. He informed me immediately. And you didn't tell me? Would you have believed me? His eyes met mine. You were in love with my son. Hearing it from his father, a man you barely knew from a world you didn't fully trust, would you have believed me? Or would you have thought I was trying to sabotage the marriage? I wanted to argue, but he was right. 3 months ago, I would have defended Jiun, made excuses, convinced myself it was a misunderstanding. Why did you open the gate? I asked. Because you came here instead of anywhere else. That tells me something. He took a sip of his whiskey. You could have gone to your office, your friends, your apartment. Instead, you drove to the home of the man whose son just destroyed you. Why? I thought about it, searching for the truth underneath the impulse. Because at our engagement party, you told Jiun I was too good for him. In Korean. You thought I couldn't understand. Seo Jun's eyebrow rose slightly. You speak Korean. Enough to know what his family says about me when they think I can't comprehend. I leaned back against the sofa. His mother thinks I'm too American, too dark-skinned, too focused on my career. His uncle thinks I'm a phase. His aunt thinks I'm after his money. And what do you think I think? I think you told your son the truth. That I'm too good for him. That he'd waste my time. I met his eyes. And you were right. Something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe. Or recognition. My wife was Black American, he said quietly. I blinked, surprised. I didn't know that. Very few people did. We met when I was 30, sent to Los Angeles to manage our operations there. She was a social worker, helping immigrant families navigate the system. Beautiful, brilliant, completely unimpressed by my money or status. His voice carried the weight of old grief. My family opposed the marriage, said she wasn't appropriate, wasn't Korean enough, would never understand our world. He smiled slightly. She proved them all wrong, learned the language fluently, earned their respect through sheer force of will, made me better than I had any right to be. What happened to her?
Cancer.
3 years ago. He looked down at his glass. Ovarian. By the time they caught it, there was nothing to be done. She died 6 months after diagnosis. I'm sorry. So am I. He looked back up at me. Since then, I've watched my son become everything I hoped he wouldn't. Entitled.
Shallow.
Concerned only with image and status. His mother encourages it. She never approved of my choices, always wanted him to marry someone from the right family. Someone like Hygiene. Exactly like Hygiene. Seo Jun leaned forward. When I heard he was engaged to you, I hoped he'd inherited something of his mother's character. The woman she was before bitterness consumed her. A black woman with ambition and intelligence, building her own career, refusing to be diminished. You reminded me of my wife. Something in my chest tightened. That's why you warned him. That's why I warned him. I knew what you were worth. And I knew he'd throw it away the moment someone more convenient came along. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of honesty settling between us. I found them in our bed. I said finally, asleep together like they'd done it 100 times. His mother hired her specifically for this, didn't she? She hired her hoping for exactly this outcome. Seo Jun's voice hardened. My ex-wife. We've been divorced for 15 years, though we maintained appearances for the business. Never accepted that I loved her predecessor more than I ever loved her. She's been determined to ensure Jiun doesn't make the same mistake I did. By sabotaging his relationship with me. By providing an alternative that meets her requirements. Someone who speaks Korean fluently, comes from the right background, knows how to navigate our world. He paused. Someone who doesn't threaten her control over her son. The pieces clicked into place. The constant criticisms. The emphasis on my otherness. Hygiene's convenient presence at every family function. I should have seen it coming, I said. You were busy building a life. Working toward partnership. Planning a wedding. Seo Jun's voice gentled. You were doing what you were supposed to do. Trust the man you agreed to marry. The failure is his, not yours. I felt tears prick my eyes for the first time since I'd walked out of the penthouse. I changed everything for him, I whispered. Learned to navigate his world, deal with his family's judgment, made myself smaller so he'd look bigger. And it still wasn't enough. It was never about being enough. It was about him being too small to deserve you. Seo Jun stood, refilled both our glasses, even though mine was only half empty. You came here for a reason, Ms. Backman. What do you need? I looked up at him, this elegant, dangerous man who'd spent decades building an empire from the shadows, who'd loved a woman the world told him he shouldn't, who'd lost her and clearly never recovered. I don't know, I admitted. I couldn't go anywhere else. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. He settled back into his chair. You came here because you knew I'd understand what it means to be told you're not enough by people who have no right to judge. Because you knew I'd tell you the truth instead of what you want to hear. What's the truth? That my son is a fool. That you deserve better than the scraps he was offering. And that the next few weeks are going to be hell as word gets out and his mother tries to control the narrative. I groaned, dropping my head back against the sofa. The wedding. God, the wedding. 400 guests, I believe. 417. Half of them are Jihoon's business associates. My mother flew in from Chicago last week to help with final preparations. I felt panic rising. This is going to be a nightmare. Then don't face it alone. I lifted my head. What? Seo Jun's expression was calculating, the intelligence that had built an empire clearly working through options.
Stay here, he said.
In the guest house. Take time to figure out your next move without his family pressuring you or the media finding you. I can't just. You can. The guest house is private, fully furnished, completely separate from the main residence. Stay a few days.
A week.
However long you need. I should say no. Should maintain distance from this entire family. But the thought of going back to my apartment, the apartment I'd shared with Jihoon, full of wedding magazines and honeymoon research and the ghost of the life I'd thought I'd have, made me want to scream. Why would you do this? I asked. I'm your son's ex-fiance. Helping me doesn't exactly strengthen your family dynamic. My family dynamic strengthened when I stopped pretending it was healthy. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. And between you and me, Ms. Backman, I think it's time my son learned that actions have consequences. You want to use me to teach him a lesson. I want to offer you refuge. What my son learns from that is his problem. His smile was sharp. Though I won't lie, watching him realize you're staying at my estate, under my protection, completely out of his reach, that will be deeply satisfying. I laughed despite everything. That's twisted. Welcome to my world. He stood, offering his hand. What do you say? Give me a few days to make my son squirm while you figure out your next move. I looked at his hand, strong, scarred, belonging to a man who'd built an empire through violence and intelligence and ruthless determination. I should walk away, distance myself from this entire mess. Instead, I took his hand.
Deal.
His grip was firm, warm. Welcome to the calm estate, Ms. Backman. Call me Julian. Julian. He tested the name, and something in the way he said it made my stomach flip. The guest house is through the garden. Let me show you. As I followed him out into the morning sunshine, my phone buzzed in my pocket. 17 missed calls from Jiun. 12 texts from his mother. 3 from Kesha, each more frantic than the last. I turned off my phone and followed Seo Jun deeper into the estate. Whatever happened next, at least I wouldn't face it alone. Okay, so she's drinking whiskey with her ex-fiancé's father, who just happens to be a retired mafia boss? And there's clearly some tension happening? Hit that subscribe button, because this is about to get complicated. And messy. And absolutely addictive. The guest house was perfect. Not in the showy, ostentatious way of the penthouse Jiun and I had shared. This was understated elegance, traditional Korean architecture with modern amenities, surrounded by bamboo and stone gardens that created natural privacy from the main house. One bedroom with a platform bed and silk bedding. A bathroom with a soaking tub that looked like it belonged in a spa. A small kitchen that was better equipped than the one I'd left behind. And floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked a koi pond and maple trees that would be stunning in autumn. It's beautiful, I said, setting my carry-on down in the bedroom. My wife designed it. Seo Jun stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets. She wanted a private space for guests who needed refuge. She used it herself sometimes, when the main house felt too suffocating. Exactly. He smiled slightly. She said every woman needs a room of her own. I thought she was quoting something. Virginia Woolf. That's right. His expression softened. You would have liked her. She was fierce, uncompromising, refused to let my world diminish her. I thought about his wife, this woman I'd never met who navigated the same hostile environment I'd been trying to survive. The same judgments, the same casual racism disguised as cultural concerns. How did she do it? I asked. Deal with your family? The pressure? By never apologizing for who she was. Seo Jun moved into the room, settling into the chair by the window. My family tried to change her, make her more demure, more traditional. She listened politely and then did exactly what she wanted anyway. They must have hated that. They did, until they realized she was smarter than most of them combined. He laughed. She learned Korean faster than anyone expected, studied our business practices, understood the cultural nuances better than people who'd grown up in it. She earned respect by refusing to beg for it. Sounds exhausting.
It was.
But she said fighting for your space is always exhausting. The question is whether the space is worth it. His eyes met mine. With me, she decided it was. The weight of that statement sat between us. I should let you rest, Seo Jun said, standing. There's food in the kitchen, fresh clothes in the closet. My housekeeper keeps the space stocked. If you need anything, just call the main house. Seo Jun. He paused at the door. Thank you. For this. For understanding. I swallowed hard. I don't know why you're helping me, but I'm grateful. I'm helping you because someone should have helped my wife when she needed it. Because my son is a fool, and fools need to learn hard lessons. He studied me for a long moment, and because something tells me you're exactly the kind of chaos his carefully controlled world needs. Then he was gone, leaving me alone in this beautiful space that smelled like cedar and possibility. I sat on the bed, pulled out my phone, and finally turned it back on. 42 missed calls, 37 text messages, 6 voicemails. I scrolled through them, watching the progression from Jihoon's panicked apologies to his mother's cold demands that I contact her immediately to discuss damage control. One text from Kesha stood out. "Girl, where are you? Jihoon showed up at my office looking for you. Said you weren't answering his calls. What the hell happened?" I typed out a response. "Found him in bed with Hygiene. I'm safe. Staying somewhere he won't find me. I'll explain everything soon. Promise." Her response came 30 seconds later.
What?
"I'm going to murder him. Where are you?" "Somewhere unexpected. Trust me. I'll call you tomorrow. Julian Marie Backman, if you don't call me in the next hour."
I'm fine.
"Really?"
Just need time to think.
I silenced my phone before she could respond and lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. 3 weeks ago, I'd been planning my wedding, picking out centerpieces and arguing with the caterer about whether salmon or chicken was the better entree choice, scheduling my final dress fitting and confirming honeymoon reservations. Now I was hiding in my ex-fiancé's father's guest house, drinking expensive whiskey at dawn, and wondering how my life had derailed so spectacularly. I should cry, should feel devastated, should be curled in a ball, sobbing over the betrayal. Instead, I felt free. The realization surprised me. But lying there in that beautiful space, away from Jihoon's expectations and his mother's judgment and the constant pressure to be someone I wasn't, I felt lighter than I had in months. Maybe years. I fell asleep thinking about Seo Jun's wife. This woman who'd fought for her space and refused to apologize for existing. And wondering if I had that kind of strength in me. I woke to darkness and the smell of food. Disoriented, I stumbled out of the bedroom to find Seo Jun in the kitchen, setting dishes on the counter. He changed into dark jeans and a black sweater, hair still damp from a shower. "I wasn't sure if you'd eaten," he said, not looking up. "So, I brought dinner." The counter was covered with containers, japchae, bulgogi, kimchi, rice, banchan. Enough food for 4 people. "You cooked all this?" "I ordered from my favorite restaurant. But I did plate it myself, which counts for something." He pulled out a stool.
Sit. Eat.
"You've had a long day."
I sat, suddenly ravenous.
I couldn't remember the last time I'd eaten, probably airport food yesterday morning. Seo Jun served me generous portions, his movements efficient and practiced. We ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes before he spoke. "Jihoon came by this afternoon." I set down my chopsticks. "What did he want?" "To know if I'd seen you. He's convinced you're going to do something irrational, like cancel the wedding without discussing it with him first."
Seo Jun's tone was dry.
"I told him you weren't here." "You lied?" "I said you weren't at the main house." "Technically accurate." He smiled slightly. He threatened to search the grounds. I explained that would be unwise. I could imagine that conversation. Jihoon might be his son, but Seo Jun's authority was absolute. His mother called as well. Seo Jun continued, demanding I tell you to come to your senses, that you're being overdramatic and need to think about the family's reputation. Of course she did. I told her that her son's reputation should be her primary concern right now. That infidelity 3 weeks before a wedding is the kind of scandal that damages business relationships. He took a sip of water. She hung up on me. Despite everything, I laughed. "You're enjoying this." "Immensely." He didn't bother denying it. "My ex-wife has spent 15 years pretending our marriage ended amicably, that we're some perfect modern divorced couple. Watching her realize she can't control this narrative is deeply satisfying." "What happened between you two?" "The truth? She married me for status and security. I married her because my family approved, and I was young enough to think that mattered. He pushed food around his plate. We made each other miserable for 5 years before I met someone who showed me what real partnership looked like. Your wife. The woman you actually loved. Yes. His expression softened. She was everything I didn't know I needed. Strong. Uncompromising. She challenged me constantly, refused to let me hide behind money or power. Made me better. Jihoon's mother never forgave you for that, did she?
No.
And she's determined to ensure our son doesn't make the same mistake. He looked up at me, which brings me to a proposal. Something in his tone made me nervous.
I'm listening.
Stay here. Not just tonight, for the next few weeks. Let Jihoon and his mother think you're staying with me. Seo Jun. Hear me out. He leaned forward. Right now, they think you're hurt and confused. Hiding somewhere, waiting to be convinced to come back. But if you stay here under my roof with my protection, that sends a very different message. What message? That you're not running. That you're not devastated. That you've found allies in places they didn't expect. His smile was sharp. And more importantly, it makes them question exactly how close we are. I understood what he was suggesting. You want them to think something's happening between us. I want them to feel uncomfortable, off balance, uncertain. He held my gaze. Julian, you need time to figure out your next move. To decide what you want beyond the life Jihoon promised you. But every day you hide, you give them power. Stay here, and you take that power back. By pretending there's something between us, we don't have to pretend anything. We just don't correct their assumptions. He sat back. In my world, perception is reality. If they perceive you as under my protection, associated with me, that changes your position entirely. And what do you get out of this? The satisfaction of watching my son face consequences for once in his entitled life. The chance to ensure you're protected while his mother tries to destroy your reputation. And he paused. The company of someone who reminds me that not everyone in my family is unbearable. I should say no. This was manipulative, calculated, potentially disastrous. But the thought of going back to my apartment, fielding Jihoon's calls and his mother's demands, pretending I was broken. What about my job? I asked. I can't just disappear for weeks. Don't disappear. Work from here. My home office is available, the internet is excellent, and if anyone asks where you're staying, tell them you're taking time away from the city. He shrugged. It's not a lie. And when Jihoon finds out I'm really here, then we'll deal with it. Together. His expression turned serious. I won't let him hurt you again, Julian. Whatever happens, you have my protection. That's not negotiable. I thought about it. About what it meant to accept this offer, to step fully into Seo Jun's world, to use him as a shield while I figured out who I was without Jihoon. It was manipulative, potentially explosive, definitely complicated. I have conditions, I said finally. Name them. This is temporary. Once I figure out my next steps, I leave. No strings, no obligations. Agreed. I pay rent for the guest house. I'm not a charity case. Unnecessary, but if it makes you more comfortable, we can arrange something nominal. And if anything happens, if this becomes more complicated than either of us expects, we're honest with each other. No games, no manipulation. Something flickered in his expression.
Honest.
I can do that. I extended my hand across the counter. Then you have a deal. His hand enveloped mine, warm and strong. Welcome to the family chaos, Julian. I was already in the family chaos. Now I'm just changing sides. His laugh was genuine, surprised. I'm beginning to understand why my wife liked you. You never met me.
No.
But she saw your engagement announcement in the paper. Said Jihoon had found someone too good for him and would probably ruin it. His expression turned sad.
She was sick by then. Weak.
But she still had opinions about everything. She sounds incredible. She was. He squeezed my hand once, then released it. Finish your dinner. Tomorrow, we start making my son regret his choices. As I ate, watching Seo Jun move around the kitchen with comfortable familiarity, I realized I'd just made a deal with a retired mafia boss to use his family connections against his own son. 3 days ago, I would have been horrified. Now, I was just grateful I wouldn't face the fallout alone. And maybe, just maybe, curious about what came next. 3 days at the Kong estate taught me several things. First, Seo Jun was an early riser who ran 5 miles every morning at dawn, often shirtless, which was information I didn't need, but my traitorous eyes refused to ignore. Second, he was a surprisingly good cook who insisted on making breakfast every morning, traditional Korean dishes his wife had taught him, prepared with the same precision he'd probably applied to running a criminal empire. Third, living under his protection meant being followed everywhere by discreet security I was only occasionally aware of. Minho and Taesung, 2 men built like refrigerators who'd apparently worked for Seo Jun for over 20 years. And fourth, most dangerously, Seo Jun was excellent company. We'd fall into conversations that lasted hours. About books, politics, the nature of power, the intersection of culture and identity. He spoke 4 languages fluently, had read more philosophy than most academics, and had opinions on everything from Korean cinema to Chicago's South Side neighborhoods, where I'd grown up. He listened when I talked about my work, asked intelligent questions, never once suggested my career was less important than managing a household. It was intoxicating, dangerous, and I was self-aware enough to recognize I was comparing him to Jiun at every turn. You're thinking too much, Seo Jun said on the 3rd morning, finding me on the guest house porch with coffee and a frown. Just processing. He settled into the chair beside me, his own coffee steaming in the cool morning air. Jiun called again last night. 17 times. I know. He's been texting too. I showed him my phone. 63 unread messages, each more desperate than the last. He wants to explain and work through this together. What do you want? To never see him again. To have the past 3 years back. To not feel like I wasted my time on someone who saw me as disposable. I set down my coffee. Pick one. You didn't waste your time. You learned exactly who he was. That's valuable information. Expensive lesson. The best ones usually are. Seo Jun studied me. Your friend Kesha has been calling my main house. She's persistent. I groaned. She probably thinks you've kidnapped me. She used the word murder several times. Very creative descriptions of what she'd do to me if you weren't returned safely. That sounds like Kesha. You should call her. Confirm you're not being held hostage. He paused. Unless you want to maintain the mystery a bit longer. Why would I do that? Because mystery creates speculation. And speculation makes my son crazy. His smile was wicked. He's already convinced you're having some kind of breakdown. If you suddenly resurface, happy and healthy, staying with me of all people,
I saw where he was going.
it'll make him question everything. Exactly. It was manipulative. Strategic. The kind of psychological warfare that should have made me uncomfortable. Instead, I found myself smiling. You're devious. I prefer strategically creative. But yes. He stood, stretching. There's a family gathering tomorrow night. Dinner at my brother Minsu's house. You should come. My stomach dropped. That's a terrible idea. It's a perfect idea. You'll show up looking healthy and unbothered, clearly under my protection, and watch my family scramble to figure out what's happening. Jiun will be there. Undoubtedly. As will his mother. And Hygiene, probably, since she's been attached to his side at every family function for the past 6 months. His expression hardened. All the more reason for you to attend. Show them you're not hiding. I am hiding. I'm literally hiding at your estate. You're regrouping. There's a difference. He moved to the porch railing, looking out over the garden. Julian, I spent 30 years building power in the shadows. I know how this works. The moment you show weakness, they'll exploit it. But if you show strength, if you walk into that dinner confident and unbroken, they'll hesitate. And then what? Then you have options.
Time.
Space to figure out what you actually want.
He turned back to me.
Right now, they think you're devastated. Prove them wrong. I thought about it. About facing Jiun and his mother and Hygiene. About walking into a room full of people who judged me from the moment I'd entered their world. 3 days ago, the thought would have terrified me. Now I was angry.
Fine, I said.
I'll go, but I need a dress. Already handled. My housekeeper took your measurements and ordered several options. They'll arrive this afternoon. I blinked. You ordered me dresses? I anticipated you'd agree eventually. Preparation is key.
He moved toward the steps.
Rest today. Tomorrow, we remind them why underestimating you is a mistake. Hold up. Did Seo Jun just ban his own son from the estate and order dresses for Julian? And now she's going to a family dinner where everyone thinks she's falling apart? Subscribe and turn on all notifications because the next phase is where things get explosive. Jiun is about to lose his mind. The dresses arrived in garment bags from designers I recognized from magazine covers. Not flashy or revealing, these were power pieces. Elegant, sophisticated, the kind of clothing that announced you belonged in any room you entered. I chose a deep emerald silk dress that hugged my curves perfectly, paired with gold jewelry and heels that made my legs look endless. When I looked in the mirror, I saw someone confident, powerful, completely unbothered by her ex-fiancé's betrayal. Fake it till you make it, right? Seo Jun was waiting by his car, a sleek black Mercedes that probably cost more than my annual salary, when I emerged from the guest house. His expression when he saw me was worth every moment of doubt. You look stunning, he said simply. I look like I'm about to ruin your son's evening. Even better. He opened the passenger door. Ready for this? Absolutely not. Perfect. Neither is he. The drive to Min-Su's house took 20 minutes through increasingly expensive neighborhoods. When we pulled up to a modern mansion that looked like it belonged in an architecture magazine, my stomach knotted. Last chance to back out, Seo Jun said gently. I touched the emerald pendant at my throat, part of the jewelry that had arrived with the dresses. Let's do this. Min-Su's house was already full of people when we arrived. Extended family, business associates, the kind of gathering that was equal parts social obligation and networking opportunity. Every head turned when we walked in. Seo Jun's hand settled on my lower back, a gesture of protection and possession that didn't go unnoticed. Hyung. Min-Su approached, his expression carefully neutral. I didn't know you were bringing a guest. Julian has been staying at the estate. I thought she should join us. Seo Jun's tone suggested this wasn't up for discussion. Min-Su's eyes flicked to me, assessing. Ms. Backman, this is unexpected. Life is full of surprises, I said evenly. Across the room, I spotted Jiun. He stood with Hygiene at his side, both frozen, staring at me like I'd risen from the dead. Our eyes met across the crowded room, and I smiled. His face went absolutely white. This, Seo Jun murmured in my ear, is going to be entertaining. He wasn't wrong. Jihoon's mother reached us first. Kim Ji-woo had perfected the art of looking warm while radiating ice. She swept toward us in designer silk, her smile bright and utterly fake. Seo Jun. How unexpected. Her eyes shifted to me, cold and assessing. Ms. Backman, I wasn't aware you'd be joining us this evening. Life is full of surprises, I repeated, matching her fake smile with my own. Indeed. Especially when one finds their future daughter-in-law has been staying at their ex-husband's estate. The emphasis on staying made her meaning clear. Technically, I was never your future daughter-in-law. I said pleasantly. Your son made sure of that when he decided his secretary was more interesting than his fiancée. A ripple of whispers spread through the nearby guests.
Его е смилатайтенд.
Perhaps we could discuss this privately? I don't think that's necessary, Seo Jun said. His voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. Julian is my guest. That makes her family business. The declaration landed like a bomb. More whispers. More stares. I could feel the speculation building, the questions no one was quite brave enough to ask out loud. May I speak with you? Jiwoo's voice had an edge now. Alone?
No.
Seo Jun didn't elaborate. Jiwoo's eyes flashed. This is inappropriate. You're making a scene. I'm supporting someone who deserves better than the treatment she received from our family. He looked directly at her. If that creates a scene, perhaps you should examine why. Before Jiwoo could respond, Jihoon appeared at her side. He looked terrible, circles under his eyes, hair not quite styled with his usual precision, suit wrinkled like he'd slept in it. His eyes locked on me with desperate intensity. Julian. My name came out rough. Can we talk? Please.
No.
Julian, please, I can explain. You had 3 years to explain.
To be honest.
To treat me with basic respect. I kept my voice level, aware of our audience. You chose to spend that time lying to me instead. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Multiple choices. Over the course of months. I glanced at Hygiene, who stood a few feet away, watching with barely concealed satisfaction. With someone your mother very conveniently hired specifically for this purpose.
Его Стефанет.
That is an outrageous accusation. Is it? I met her eyes. You hired Hygiene 6 months ago despite my objections. You seated her next to Jihoon at every family function. You suggested they work late together. You made constant comments about how I'd never truly understand her world, while praising how appropriate she was. The room had gone very quiet. I wasn't accusing you of anything, I continued. I was stating facts. If you're offended by those facts, that's not my problem. You ungrateful, Jiwoo started. Choose your next words very carefully, Seo Jun said quietly. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Julian is under my protection. That means insults directed at her are insults directed at me. I trust one don't need to explain what that means.
Его е mouth snapped shut.
The threat was implicit but clear. Seo Jun might be retired, but his power remained. His connections, his reputation, his ability to make problems disappear, none of that had diminished just because he'd stepped back from day-to-day operations. Father, please. Jihoon's voice cracked. This is between me and Julian. You don't need to. I don't need to what? Seo Jun's attention shifted to his son. Defend someone you betrayed? Point out that your choices have consequences? Ensure she's not bullied by people who should be apologizing to her. I am apologizing. I've been trying to apologize for days, but she won't answer my calls. Because apologies don't fix betrayal. I finally looked directly at Jihoon, really seeing him for the first time in days. You didn't just cheat, Jihoon. You made me feel crazy for months. Every time I questioned your late nights or Hygiene's constant presence, you made me feel insecure and unreasonable. You gaslit me while sleeping with someone else in our bed. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. And we both know it. Julian, please. He took a step toward me. I love you. I made a terrible mistake, but I love you. We can fix this.
No.
The word came out firm, final. We can't. Because I don't love you anymore. Actually, I don't think I have for months. I just didn't want to admit I'd wasted 3 years on someone who saw me as disposable. You're not disposable. Then why did you treat me like I was? My voice rose slightly despite my best efforts. Why did you make me feel like I had to earn your family's acceptance while you were sleeping with someone they'd pre-approved? Why did you promise me forever while planning your exit strategy? Jihoon had no answer. That's what I thought. I turned to Seo Jun. I'd like to leave now. Of course. His hand settled on my back again, protective and grounding. You can't just leave, Ji-woo said sharply. We need to discuss what happens next. The wedding, the deposits, the guests. Cancel it. Eat the deposits. Tell the guests whatever you want. I looked at her directly. Tell them I wasn't Korean enough, wasn't traditional enough, wasn't appropriate enough. Tell them your son cheated, and his father took my side. Tell them the truth for once. Her face flushed with rage. Julian, Ji-hoon started.
Goodbye, Yeon.
I didn't look back. I hope Hygiene was worth it. Seo Jun guided me toward the door, his presence a wall between me and everyone else. The crowd parted silently, whispers erupting in our wake. We were almost at the exit when Hygiene's voice rang out. This is exactly why he came to me. You're too American, too selfish, too focused on your career to be a proper wife. I stopped, turned slowly. Hygiene stood next to Ji-woo, chin raised defiantly. She looked triumphant, like she'd finally won something worth having. You're right, I said calmly. I am too American to accept being treated like property. Too selfish to erase myself for a man who doesn't deserve me. Too focused on my career to pretend my only value is being someone's wife. I walked toward her, watched her confidence waver slightly. But here's what you don't understand. You didn't win. You got the booby prize. A man who'll cheat on you the moment someone more convenient comes along. A family that will judge and control and diminish you until you're nothing but a reflection of their expectations. I glanced at Ji-hoon, then back to Hygiene. So, congratulations. You can have him. The late nights, the mother-in-law from hell, the constant pressure to be perfect. Enjoy everything I just walked away from. Her expression faltered. Oh, and Hygiene? I smiled. He called you baby in bed. Just so you know, he told me he thought pet names were too Western and disrespectful. Apparently that only applies to fiancés, not secretaries. Ji-hoon's face went scarlet. Enjoy your prize, I said. Then I walked out, Seo Jun beside me, leaving chaos in our wake. In the car driving away from Insu's house, I started laughing. It came out slightly hysterical, but genuine.
Cathartic.
That, Seo Jun said, glancing over at me with concern and amusement, was spectacular. I can't believe I just did that. I can. You've been holding that in for days. Possibly months. He smiled. Though I particularly enjoyed the part where you told Hygiene she'd won a booby prize. Her face was priceless. Did you see Ji-woo's expression when I mentioned her orchestrating the affair? The entire room saw it. By tomorrow, everyone will know the truth. He navigated through traffic with easy precision. You just destroyed their narrative completely.
Good.
I leaned back against the seat, adrenaline still singing through my veins. They deserved it. They did. Though you realize this means war, right? Ji-woo won't let this stand. Let her try. I felt fierce. Powerful. I'm done being nice to people who treated me like I wasn't good enough. Seo Jun reached over, squeezed my hand briefly. Good. Because nice gets you nowhere in my world. Is that what this is now? Your world. The moment you accepted my protection, yes. His expression turned serious. Which means anyone who comes for you comes for me. That includes my ex-wife and my son. I don't want to cause problems between you and your family. They caused the problems. I'm simply choosing a side. He glanced at me. And for the record, I'm choosing you. The weight of that declaration settled in the car. Why? I asked softly. Why are you really doing this? He was quiet for a long moment, navigating turns, clearly choosing his words carefully. Because when I look at you, I see my wife. The woman who refused to be diminished. Who fought for her space and never apologized for existing. His voice roughened slightly. And because my son threw away something precious. Someone needs to show him what he lost. So, This is still about teaching Jihoon a lesson.
No.
He pulled into the estate's driveway, put the car in park, turned to face me fully. It started that way. But somewhere in the past few days, it became about something else entirely. My heart was hammered. What? About the fact that I look forward to our morning conversations. That I find myself cooking your favorite dishes without thinking about it. That I haven't laughed this much in 3 years. His dark eyes held mine. That when you walked out in that dress tonight, my first thought wasn't about humiliating my son. It was about how stunning you looked and how proud I was to have you beside me.
Oh.
Oh no, Seo Jun. I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I know the situation is complicated. I know you're still processing betrayal and figuring out what comes next. I'm just being honest as promised. I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything. Not tonight. He got out, came around to open my door. Go to bed. Process. We'll talk tomorrow. But as I walked toward the guest house, his words echoing in my head, I realized I was in serious trouble. Because somewhere between the whiskey at dawn and the family confrontation and his steady protection, I'd stopped seeing Seo Jun as Jihoon's father. I'd started seeing him as something else entirely. And that was dangerous in ways I wasn't ready to acknowledge. I couldn't sleep. For hours, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying Seo Jun's words. When you walked out in that dress tonight, my first thought wasn't about humiliating my son. It was about how stunning you looked and how proud I was to have you beside me. This was insane. Complicated. Absolutely wrong on every level. He was Jihoon's father. 26 years older than me. From a world I barely understood. A retired mafia boss who'd spent decades building power through violence and fear. And yet I couldn't stop thinking about the way he looked at me. Like I was worth protecting, worth defending, worth choosing over his own son. No one had ever looked at me like that. Not even Jihoon in the beginning when everything was new and exciting. At 2 a.m., I gave up on sleep and made tea. At 2:15, I heard footsteps on the porch. Seo Jun stood at the door in pajama pants and a t-shirt, holding a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses. Couldn't sleep either, he said. I let him in. We settled on the couch, and he poured generous measures into both glasses. For a while, we just sat there, the comfortable silence we developed over the past few days settling around us. I'm sorry, he said finally, for earlier. In the car. I shouldn't have said. Don't. I cut him off. Don't apologize for being honest. That was the deal, remember? Honesty can be cruel sometimes. Only if it's unwanted. I took a sip of whiskey, letting it burn away my uncertainty. What if it's not? He went very still. Julian, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. About what you said. About the fact that I look forward to our morning conversations too. That I feel safer here than I have in years. That when you put your hand on my back tonight, it felt right in a way nothing with Jihoon ever did. You're processing trauma. Betrayal. It's natural to feel attached to the person who's protecting you. Don't. Now it was my turn to interrupt. Don't diminish what I'm feeling by calling it trauma response or transference or whatever psychological term makes it easier to dismiss. I'm not trying to dismiss it. I'm trying to protect you. From what? From you. I laughed softly. Seo Jun, you're the most honest person I've met in years. You told me exactly who you were from day one. You've been nothing but straightforward about your past, your power, your reasons for helping me. How is that something I need protection from? Because I'm twice your age. Because I'm your ex-fiancé's father. Because my world is violent and dangerous and I'm a grown woman who gets to make her own choices. I set down my glass. Look, I'm not saying this isn't complicated. It's incredibly, absurdly complicated. But pretending there's nothing here? That's not honest. And honesty was the one thing we agreed on. Seo Jun closed his eyes. You're going to be the death of me. I hope not. I've grown rather fond of you. He laughed despite himself. Rather fond. Extremely fond.
Dangerously fond.
I turned to face him fully. Fond enough that when you touch me, I forget why this is supposed to be a bad idea. Because I've lived decades more than you. Because my choices have consequences you can't imagine. Because if we do this, if we make this real, there's no going back. What if I don't want to go back? I asked quietly. What if going forward is exactly what I need? Julian. My name was barely a whisper. I spent 3 years making myself smaller for a man who never saw me, who treated me like a consolation prize until something better came along. I moved closer. You see me, really see me. You defended me to your family, chose me over your son, made me feel worthy for the first time in longer than I can remember. That's basic decency.
No, it's not.
It's extraordinary and rare. And something I'm not willing to pretend doesn't matter. His hand came up, cupping my face with surprising gentleness for someone with his history. If we do this, my world will eat you alive if you let it. Then I won't let it. I leaned into his touch. I'm done letting other people's expectations diminish me. Jiun taught me that lesson at least. I'm not an easy man to love.
Good.
I'm not an easy woman to love either. Something shifted in his expression, surrender mixed with inevitability. When did you become so fearless? About 3 days ago, when a retired mafia boss opened his gate to a heartbroken woman at dawn and offered her whiskey and refuge. Best decision I've made in years. Show me. What? Show me it was the right decision. Stop protecting me from yourself. Stop assuming I can't handle your world. Just. I moved closer. Kiss me. Julian. Or don't. If this isn't what you want, if I'm reading this wrong, tell me now, and we'll never speak of it again. You're not reading it wrong. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone. I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since you showed up at my gate. About how strong you are, how resilient, how much you've survived and still retained your kindness. Then kiss me, I repeated.
He did.
It wasn't tentative or gentle. It was consuming.
Desperate.
Like something he'd been holding back for days finally breaking free. His hand tangled in my hair, angling my head, deepening the kiss until I couldn't remember why this was complicated. Couldn't remember all the reasons this was supposed to be wrong. All I knew was that it felt right. More right than anything had in years. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Seo Jun rested his forehead against mine. This changes everything, he said. I know. Jiun will lose his mind. I know that too. My family will make your life hell. They were already trying to do that. At least now I'll have backup. I kissed him again, softer this time. I'm not afraid of complicated, Seo Jun. I'm afraid of settling for less than I deserve. And you? I smiled. You make me feel like I deserve everything. You do. You always did. His arms wrapped around me, holding me close. God help us both, but I'm done fighting this.
Good.
Because I wasn't going to let you. We stayed like that for a while, wrapped around each other, both knowing we'd just crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Tomorrow would bring consequences. Jihoon's rage, his mother's manipulation, the family's scandal.
But tonight?
Tonight, I chose myself. Chose something real and honest and terrifying. Chose the man who'd seen my worth when everyone else suggested I didn't have any. And I didn't regret it for a second. Morning came too quickly and brought my phone ringing incessantly. I grabbed it, saw Kesha's name, and answered with a groan. You have exactly 30 seconds to explain why I'm seeing social media posts about you at a Kong family dinner looking stunning on Seo Jun Kang's arm, or I'm driving to wherever you're hiding and dragging you out bodily. I sat up, rubbing sleep from my eyes. Good morning to you too. Julian Marie Backman. Do not test me. I'm at Seo Jun's estate. The guest house. I've been here for almost a week. Silence. Then, I'm sorry. Did you just say you've been staying with your ex-fiancé's father for a week and didn't think to mention this? It's been complicated. Oh, it's complicated. That's your explanation. You've been hiding out with a retired mafia boss. Yes, I googled him. He's legitimately terrifying, and you describe it as complicated. Kesha, are you safe? Are you doing this voluntarily?
Yes.
God, yes, I'm completely safe. He's been nothing but protective and respectful and, Julian, what the hell is going on? I took a deep breath. I kissed him last night. Another silence, longer this time. You kissed Jihoon's father. Yes. The man who's old enough to be your father. He's 58. That's only 26 years older than me. Only? Julian, what are you thinking? I'm thinking he's the first man in years who's treated me like I matter, who defended me to his entire family, who chose me over his own son. Kesha paused. Okay, when you put it like that, it's slightly less insane.
Slightly.
But girl, this is going to explode. Jihoon is already losing his mind, and when he finds out you're actually involved with his father, let him lose his mind. He earned it. I'm not disagreeing, but I'm worried about you. This family is dangerous. Seo Jun might be retired, but I know what I'm doing.
Do you?
Because from here, it looks like you're rebounding spectacularly into the most complicated situation possible.
Was I?
Was this just a reaction to Jihoon's betrayal? A way to hurt him back? No, I said firmly, surprising myself with my certainty. This isn't about Jihoon. It stopped being about Jihoon days ago. This is about Seo Jun makes me feel seen, valued. Like I don't have to apologize for existing. Kesha sighed. Okay, I hear you, but I'm coming over. Today. I need to meet this man and make sure he understands that if he hurts you, lawyer or not, I will end him. Despite everything, I laughed.
Deal.
Come for lunch. I'll be there at noon. And Julian? I love you, even when you're making absolutely insane life choices. Love you too. I hung up just as Seo Jun appeared at the guest house door with coffee and breakfast. Your friend is coming? He asked, having clearly heard at least part of the conversation. At noon. She wants to meet you and ensure you're not a serial killer. Reasonable. He set down the food, pulled me into his arms. How are you feeling? About last night? Terrified. Excited. Certain I'm making either the best or worst decision of my life. I looked up at him. How are you feeling? Like I'm robbing the cradle and should probably have more self-control. His expression turned serious. Julian, if you want to walk this back. I don't. I kissed him. Stop giving me outs. I'm a grown woman making an informed choice. An informed choice to date a man who's done things that would horrify you. You keep saying that, but you haven't actually told me what those things are. He pulled back slightly. Do you really want to know?
Yes.
Honesty, remember? Seo Jun moved to the window, staring out at the garden. For a long moment, he didn't speak. I've killed people, he said finally. Not many, but enough. Rivals who threaten my family. People who betrayed our organization. I've ordered violence, sanctioned torture, made people disappear when they became problems. I swallowed hard, but didn't interrupt. I've run drugs, weapons, illegal gambling operations. I've bribed politicians, corrupted law enforcement, used blackmail and fear to build power. For 30 years, I was exactly the kind of man your mother warned you about. And now I'm retired. Out of life, mostly. But that doesn't erase the past. Those choices still exist. Those consequences still matter. I moved beside him. Are you still doing any of those things?
No.
When I met my wife, I started transitioning our legitimate businesses, reducing our criminal operations. By the time she died, I was almost completely out. I finished the process after her funeral. Why? Because she made me want to be better. To build something that didn't require violence to maintain. He looked down at me. But I can't undo 30 years of blood and fear. That man still exists inside me. I know. And I'm choosing you anyway. You say that now. I say that because it's true. I took his hand. Seo Jun, I'm not naive. I know your past was dark, violent, probably horrifying in ways I can't fully comprehend. But I also know who you've been to me. Honest, protective, respectful. That's the man I'm choosing. Even knowing what I'm capable of. Especially knowing what you're capable of and choosing not to use it against me. I squeezed his hand. Everyone has a past. You're just more honest about yours than most people. He pulled me close, buried his face in my hair. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're getting me anyway. We stood like that until my phone buzzed with a text from Kesha. Changed my mind. I'm coming now. Be there in 20 minutes. Tell your mafia boyfriend I'm armed. With questions. And possibly pepper spray. I showed Seo Jun, who laughed. I like her already. You won't after she interrogates you for 2 hours. I've survived far worse than protective best friends. You've clearly never met Kesha. Wait. They just kissed. They just made this real. But Jiun is spiraling. The family is furious. And this is a mafia family. Someone's about to make a move. Subscribe right now because the final chapter is going to be absolutely brutal. You've been warned. Kesha arrived like a hurricane. She swept into the estate in her power suit, natural hair and a crown of curls, carrying herself like the corporate lawyer she was, prepared for battle and accepting no nonsense. Seo Jun met her at the main house, extended his hand. She ignored it, stepping past him to hug me fiercely. You okay? She whispered.
I'm okay.
She pulled back, studied my face, then turned to Seo Jun. All right, let's talk. We settled in the main house's sitting room, neutral territory. Seo Jun poured tea with the same precision he applied to everything, while Kesha assessed him with lawyer eyes. So, she said, you're dating my best friend, your son's ex-fiancé, who's 26 years younger than you. Yes. And you don't see any problems with this? I see numerous problems. Julian has decided they're not insurmountable. Julian has decided.
Kesha looked at me.
Has he pressured you in any way? Made you feel obligated because he's housing you? No, I said firmly. If anything, he's tried to talk me out of this multiple times. Why? Kesha's attention swung back to Seo Jun. Why try to talk her out of it if you want her? Because I'm aware of the power dynamic, the age difference, my past. I don't want her making a decision she'll regret when the newness wears off and reality sets in. What reality? That I'm a retired criminal with a complicated family and a history I'm not proud of. That being with me means permanent association with a world most people want nothing to do with. Kesha studied him for a long moment. You really believe that, don't you? That you're not good enough for her? I know I'm not. But I'm selfish enough to accept her choice anyway. Why? Seo Jun looked at me, and something in his expression made my chest tight. Because she reminds me what it feels like to be fully alive. To laugh again. To believe redemption might be possible. His voice roughened. Because when she walks into a room, I remember why I wanted to be better in the first place. Kesha's expression softened slightly. Okay, that's actually kind of beautiful. Don't let him off easy, I said. You promised to grill him. I'm getting there. She turned back to Seo Jun. What happens when Jiun finds out? He already suspects. Last night's dinner made that clear. And when it's confirmed, when he realizes this isn't just protection or revenge, but something real, then we deal with it. Together. Seo Jun leaned forward. I understand your concern. Julian is your best friend, and you're worried I'm using her or will hurt her. But I give you my word, I will protect her with everything I have. My reputation, my resources, my life if necessary. That's a hell of a promise. I don't make promises I can't keep. They stared at each other, two protectors assessing whether they could trust each other with something precious. Finally, Kesha nodded.
All right.
But understand this, if you hurt her, retired or not, mafia or not, I will dedicate my entire legal career to destroying you.
Clear?
Crystal.
Good.
She looked at me. You're really sure about this? I'm really sure. Even knowing this is going to be a nightmare? That Jiun is going to lose his mind? That his mother is probably planning your destruction as we speak. Even knowing all of that, I moved to sit beside Seo Jun, took his hand. I'm done letting other people's opinions control my life. This is my choice. Messy and complicated and probably insane, but mine. Kesha sighed. Then, I guess I'm supporting you through this disaster. It's not a disaster. Girl, you're dating your ex-fiancé's father. It's absolutely a disaster. But it's your disaster, so I'll help you navigate it. She pointed at Seo Jun. But I'm watching you. I'd expect nothing less.
My phone rang.
Jihoon's number. I declined the call. It rang again immediately. How many times has he called today?
Kesha asked.
That's number 23.
Jesus. She stood.
You need to deal with this. Have a final conversation, make it clear you're done, and block him. I've told him we're done. You told him at a family dinner in front of witnesses. He didn't really hear it. You need to tell him directly, privately, one final time. Give him closure, even if he doesn't deserve it. She was right. I knew she was right. Will you come with me? Absolutely not. But, she looked at Seo Jun. He should. Show Jihoon exactly who you chose. Seo Jun's expression turned predatory. It would be my pleasure. We met Jihoon at a coffee shop in neutral territory 2 days later. He looked worse than before, unshaven, rumpled, desperate. When he saw Seo Jun beside me, something broke in his expression. Why is he here?
Jihoon demanded.
Because I asked him to be. I settled into a chair across from him. Seo Jun stood behind me, a silent presence. Julian, please. Please, just talk to me alone.
No.
Anything you need to say, you can say in front of Seo Jun. Jihoon's hands clenched. This is insane. He's my father. He's the man who chose me over you. That's all that matters. You're doing this to hurt me, to get revenge. This has nothing to do with you. I leaned forward. Jihoon, I'm going to say this once, and then we're done. Forever. Are you listening? He nodded mutely. I don't love you. I don't think I have for a long time. You made me feel small, unworthy, constantly apologizing for existing. You prioritized your mother's approval over my dignity. You cheated with someone she'd specifically chosen to replace me. And when you got caught, you blamed me for coming home early instead of taking responsibility for your choices. I know I screwed up. You didn't screw up. You revealed who you really are. And I'm grateful. I held his gaze. Because if you hadn't, I might have married you. Spent years making myself smaller while you told yourself you'd settled. That would have been so much worse than this. But you loved me. I loved who I thought you were. The man you pretended to be when you wanted something from me. But that man doesn't exist. Probably never did. I stood. I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing this because I deserve better than you were ever capable of giving. And my father is better? His voice turned ugly. He's a criminal. A killer. He's twice your age.
He's honest.
He sees me. He treats me like I matter. I paused. And he's chosen me over his entire family. When's the last time you chose me over anything? Your mother's approval? Your business? Your ego? Jihoon had no answer. I didn't think so. I picked up my purse.
Goodbye, Jihoon.
I genuinely hope you find happiness. Just not at the expense of someone who deserves better. Julian. We're done. Please don't contact me again. I walked toward the exit. Seo Jun followed. Wait. Jihoon's voice cracked. You're really choosing him? My father? You're really going to destroy our family like this? I turned back one last time. I'm not destroying your family. I'm choosing myself. If your family can't handle that, that's not my problem. Then I left, Seo Jun's hand settling protectively on my back as we walked out. That was brutal, he said once we were in the car. It needed to be.
Clean break. No ambiguity.
I leaned back against the seat, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. It's really over. How do you feel? Free. I looked over at him, terrified about what comes next, but free. He took my hand, threaded our fingers together. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Promise. Promise. 3 months later, I stood in the kitchen of the guest house, which Seo Jun had insisted I think of as our space now, though I maintained my own apartment in the city, making breakfast while he read the morning news on his tablet.
Domestic.
Comfortable. Normal in ways that should have been impossible given who we were and how we'd started. Your assistant called, Seo Jun said. The Anderson contract needs your signature. I'll handle it this afternoon. I'd been promoted to senior director at my firm 2 months ago, a promotion I'd earned through my work, not through any association with Seo Jun. He'd been careful to maintain complete separation between our relationship and my career, understanding how important that independence was to me. Also, my brother called. He wants to have dinner next week. With both of us. I turned, surprised. Min-soo wants to have dinner? Voluntarily. Apparently his wife has decided she likes you and wants to get to know you better. His smile was wry. She thinks you're a good influence on me. Should I be flattered or concerned? Both, probably. My phone buzzed. A text from Kesha. Deposition at 30. But first, how's the silver fox treating you? I grinned, typed back. Exceptionally well. He made me breakfast.
Disgusting.
I demand details later. Love you. Love you too. Things with the Kong family remained complicated. Jiwoo still refused to acknowledge me, though she'd stopped actively interfering once she realized Seo Jun's protection was absolute. Jihoon had eventually married Hygiene in a small, quiet ceremony. No grand wedding, no 400 guests. Word was they were already unhappy, though I refused to take satisfaction in that. Some of the extended family had come around. Others maintained their distance. I'd learned not to care. Their approval had never been the point. Kesha's family reunion is next month, I said, sitting beside Seo Jun with my coffee. She wants us to come. You ready to meet my people? His expression turned slightly nervous. Your mother will be there. Terrified of my 5'2" mother? I've survived gang wars and territory disputes. Your mother is significantly more intimidating. I laughed. She'll love you. Eventually. After she finishes grilling you about your intentions. My intentions are to keep you happy and safe. In that order. Good answer. I kissed him. You're learning. We sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, both lost in our morning routines. This had become our rhythm over the past 3 months, easy domesticity punctuated by moments of intense connection. It wasn't perfect. We still argued about his overprotectiveness, my stubborn independence, how much time we spent apart versus together. But we argued honestly, working through problems instead of around them. I saw Jihoon yesterday, Seo Jun said carefully. At the company office. I stiffened slightly. How did that go? He asked how you were. If you were happy. What did you tell him? The truth. That you're thriving. That you're happy. That you've built a life that has nothing to do with him. How'd he take it? About as well as expected. He's still processing that I chose you over him. That his mother's manipulation didn't work. That he destroyed the best thing that happened to him through his own arrogance. I thought about Jihoon sometimes. Wondered if he'd learned anything, if he'd grown at all. But mostly I felt nothing. He was someone I used to know, a chapter firmly closed. Do you regret it? I asked. Choosing me? The family tension, the scandal, All of it. Seo Jun set down his tablet, turned to face me fully. Not for a single second. You've reminded me what it feels like to live instead of just exist. To laugh. To hope. He cupped my face. Choosing you was the easiest decision I've made in years. Even though I'm complicated and stubborn and refuse to let you control everything, especially because of that. He kissed me. You challenged me.
Keep me honest.
Refuse to let me hide behind power or money. You're exactly what I needed, even if I didn't know it. You're going soft in your old age. I prefer emotionally evolved. Definitely soft. He proved exactly how not soft he was by pulling me into his lap and kissing me until I forgot what we'd been talking about. Later, getting ready for work, I caught sight of myself in the mirror. The same woman who'd stood in Jihoon's bedroom 3 months ago, devastated and broken, but somehow completely transformed. I stood taller now, smiled more genuinely, didn't apologize for taking up space. I'd built a career I was proud of, maintained friendships that mattered, and chosen a relationship that demanded I stay fully myself. It wasn't perfect. It was complicated and messy, and sometimes difficult to navigate. But it was mine, on my terms, with eyes wide open. Ready. Seo Jun appeared behind me in the mirror, also dressed for the day. Ready. We drove to the city together, his hand warm in mine, talking about everything and nothing. When he dropped me in my office, he kissed me goodbye like it was the most natural thing in the world. Dinner tonight, he asked.
Can't.
I have drinks with the team. Big project launch. Tomorrow then? Tomorrow. Your place or mine?
Surprise me.
I watched him drive away, feeling grateful and terrified and absolutely certain all at once. 3 months ago, I'd been planning a wedding to the wrong man, building a life that required me to shrink. Now I was building something real. Complicated but honest. Messy but mine. And I wouldn't change a single thing. 6 months later. The charity gala was one of those events where Seoul's elite gathered to be seen while pretending to care about the cause of a month. Seo Jun had been invited to give a speech about community investment. His legitimate businesses had become major donors over the past few years. I stood beside him in an emerald gown, his hand possessive on my waist, watching the crowd. Jihoon was there with Hygiene. They looked miserable in that way couples do when they're staying together out of spite or obligation. She kept checking her phone. He kept drinking too much. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not pity. Just profound indifference. 30 seconds, an organizer whispered to Seo Jun. He squeezed my hand. Wish me luck. You don't need it. You're going to be brilliant. He kissed my forehead, then walked to the podium. His speech was perfect, eloquent, passionate, genuine in ways that surprised people who still thought of him as a criminal. He talked about second chances, redemption, building something meaningful. And through it all, his eyes kept finding mine in the crowd. When he finished, the applause was thunderous. Later, at our table, Min-soo leaned over. You're good for him, you know. He hasn't been this engaged in years. He's good for me too. Even after everything, the scandal, the family drama, especially after everything. I looked at where Seo Jun was networking, watching him command respect through presence alone. He taught me that choosing myself isn't selfish, that demanding respect is healthy, that love shouldn't require martyrdom. Min-soo nodded slowly. My brother is a lucky man. We're both lucky. Seo Jun returned, pulling me onto the dance floor as the orchestra played something slow and romantic. Have I told you how stunning you look tonight? He murmured. 3 times. But I don't mind hearing it again. You're stunning. Brilliant.
Mine.
Possessive. Absolutely. He pulled me closer. Everyone's watching us, you know. Still trying to figure out our story. Let them wonder.
Jehones.
He looks devastated. I know. I don't care.
Good.
He kissed me, slow and deep, in front of everyone. Because I'm done pretending you're anything less than the best thing that's happened to me. Soft, I teased. Completely. He smiled against my lips. And I don't care who knows it. We danced until the music ended, then another song started, and we kept dancing. Because this, us, was worth every complication, every scandal, every family dinner from hell. I'd walked away from a wedding that would have destroyed me slowly, painfully, one compromise at a time, and walked straight into something that demanded I stay whole. That was worth everything. The end. They say the best revenge is living well. But Julian Backman learned something better. The best liberation is choosing yourself, refusing to shrink, demanding love that doesn't diminish you. She didn't just leave her cheating fiancé. She claimed the life she deserved, with a man who understood what it meant to fight for your space. And every single day, she chose herself. That was her victory. That was her freedom. And it was better than any revenge could ever be.